Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Giulio
Don't
Show.
look down.
Good to see you. Oh, look. Oh, that's right. I was looking at the wrong camera. Okay, we'll start again. Giulio, take 2, 3, 4, 5. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Giulio Show. I'm really excited today. We have a great guest on today. We're going to start focusing a lot more of these shows about how to build yourself in business, or even just the career that you have, and how to have more faith over fear and pursue the dreams that you've always wanted to. But first of all, I want to say thank you for following me on Instagram and Facebook during the Author of the Year Book Awards. That was a lot of fun. I didn't win the Author of the Year. I did win first prize for the book, but just getting nominated alone is, as a finalist, it was an honor in itself. But it was a lot of fun, great experience, great people that I met, great networking, a lot of great authors out there. I mean, there is a ton, and each of them have a great story, just like all of us. We all have a story within, whether it be good or bad, the trials, the tributes, what we went through, our upbringing, how we overcame things, or how we're trying to overcome things. I mean, it's endless what you can talk about, and words are very impactful. So if you have a story, don't worry about how to write a book. Just start journaling. Just start writing things down, and it all comes together. An editor will help you put it together. But we all have something to share. We all have something to give. And speaking of that, and sharing and giving, I have a great guest on today. We met through a mutual friend of mine, Win Clayball, and this next guest, who I'd like to welcome, is a great coach. If you ever need a coach to want to achieve your dreams, or have somebody hold you accountable, this guy can do it for you. He is a person who loves helping ambitious people up their level. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today, Jordan Edwards. Hey, Jordan, are you there for me?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Excited to be
Hey,
here.
anytime. Where in the world are you today?
I'm in Milan, Italy. I'm in Milan.
Oh, I hate you. I hate you. You know, the thing I love about Jordan is he can work from anywhere in the world. And I'm going to ask him questions about that, because a lot of people think they need an office, or they need to sit somewhere and work. You chose to work. You don't even have an apartment. You chose to work anywhere in the world. And you work with some of the top industries, top business owners, entrepreneurs. You even have a show called Clocked In, a podcast where you interview a lot of great entrepreneurs and people. But once again, I'm jealous, because last time I talked to you, where were you last time I talked to you?
I think it was Croatia.
Croatia. And now he's in Milan. Here we're all thinking, boy, would we love to travel the world and see the world. But, we're always like, how do we get the money? How do we get the job? How did you do it? What's your story?
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And this all started with setting a 5-year vision for myself. So I recall I grew up in Jersey, went down to Tampa for school, ended up graduating, and I got this job at a big bank. And I was sitting there and I was like, they always ask you, what do you want to do next year? What do you want to do in 5 years? And that's always through the professional lens. But the lens that really opened up to me was, what do I want for myself in 5 years? What would be a cool story to tell? Like, how do I want to see my life? Because you hear so many people who are like, yeah, I woke up at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And they're like, I wish I did this. So I was like, the big thing for me and for the audience listening is intentionality. You got to be intentional about what you want and go after that. So I set a 5-year vision for myself, and I wanted to travel more. And that all started by studying abroad. I studied in Rome while in college, and it was 3 months there. And the crazy thing was, I was like, it costs less than the US. I was like, what? This is baffling to me. I'm like, college costs less here. I was like, this is mind blowing. And then as COVID started happening and all these things where people started to move more remote, I started to see these different opportunities. And the first opportunity that really came up for me was back in 2020 because I knew I wanted to travel more. I knew I wanted to see more things. And I grew up in Jersey, went down to Tampa, and I was living in Tampa for about 6 years at that point. And I was like, do I even like Tampa? Like, is this what I want to do? So during COVID, I ended up going around the United States because I was talking to all my mentors. I'm like, hey, should I travel? Should I do this? They're like, do you have to quit anything? I'm like, no, I'm just going to do everything I normally do. And they're like, why not? And it's these opportunities and these times that are scary. We sit there and we think, how is this possible? But you have to see the upside because a lot of us were so stuck in this is horrible, this is terrible. And I just thought, how can this be helping me in some sort of way? So it gave me that opportunity. And we ended up I ended up going, and it wasn't my then girlfriend, but now girlfriend, now wife. And we were traveled around for 8 months. And that was my first taste of this is really possible.
Well, let's back up a little bit. When you got out of college, you got a degree in what?
I got a degree in accounting. I got a
Oh,
degree in
fun.
accounting. Super
Fun.
exciting.
What
Well,
helps you manage is your money, but that takes a special person in its own. I couldn't sit there and do that. But were you sitting in an office at the time you were doing accounting at the bank or whatever, and just did that aha moment just happen there, or was it something you've been always thinking of?
so the interesting thing for me was there was only a few times in my life where I really pushed through. And one of those was to study abroad. That was one of the pushes. And then another push was sitting there at the bank. And the funny thing was, it was 2018, and they're like, you need to work from home for 3 days a week. I can work from home. And this was before I'm like, I'm a hustler, I'm a go getter. I have to go make the most of this. And I started seeing these different opportunities. So I had the 3 days from home. And so my first default answer was, let me go get my CPA. Little did we know, I'm not the best at test taking. I know we all struggle with that. And I ended up failing that 3 times. And I was like, I'm not. And then I sat there and I thought 30 years down the line, do I even want a CPA? And I sat there and I go, what can they do? They can only sign off on audits. I want to be the one getting audited. I don't actually want to be getting audited, but I was like, I want people to be looking at my numbers. I don't want to be looking at everyone else's numbers. So it made me realize that this isn't that, like, I wasn't going to go in that direction unless you're a partner at a firm, which is an incredible thing to do, but that just wasn't my direction. And then I started to have this freedom of like realizing, where do I even want to allocate my time? What do I want to be doing? What do I like? And I find that in the early 20s, there's so many people who don't give themselves enough space because they try to get in this job that's way, way too intense and too little pay, where they're like, I'm just working. Meanwhile, they're not really working on themselves, which is where I think you and I both come in, where it's like, you got to work on your journey.
Yeah. Do you think that is because people have fear, a lot of fear, rather than taking a chance? Because you have two choices, right? Fear or faith. And most people choose to live in fear and they put themselves in a prison. So they have these dreams, but do you think it's because they're not ambitious because this fear sits in front of them?
100%. So I think the fear holds us back. But what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're working 40 hours a week, that's only 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. You still have 5 to 9. You still have Saturday and Sunday. You have these extra hours to work. But a lot of us are like, I don't even want to try anything because it's not worth my time. And I hear that a lot. And what you start to realize is worth my time is, what's your time isn't worth anything. It's whatever you put the value on. So it gives you that ability to go experience these different things. So while I was working this job, I started working on this business. So there wasn't any risk. And we sit there and we think about these things, but like, we all have time for family, friends, parties, this, that. And it's, how often do we have time with ourselves and prioritize, what do you want?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't take time for themselves. And if they do, they take the time just to worry rather than to plan and
Exactly.
take action. It's like I can spend
Exactly.
5 hours thinking about what bad things have happened in my life and what could happen badly in my life. Listen, if you don't have enough money now, what's the problem? You're going to be poor anyway, right? So
I mean,
take it.
100%. And the other thing that's really interesting about the money thing is you don't have to, like, to make this happen and to live your own life and to go after it. There's different risk tolerances. Like, I have relatively low risk tolerance. Like, I have some risk tolerance, but it's not nearly as high as I've coached clients where their first meeting, they're like, "Oh, Jordan, I can't do this with the job," and they literally quit their job the next day. And I go, "I didn't tell you to do that. I did not tell you to do that." But my point is, everyone's got a different risk tolerance. But if you can be strategic with your financials, like you just brought up, it's a game changer. So the idea is to live
When you say
low, but
strategic
yeah.
with your money, and I think you were just about to say it, and I apologize, but a lot of people don't have a lot of money to start. But you don't, I look at my parents. We immigrated to this country. They made $1.50 an hour, but they had their house, their car paid for. I mean, it's how you manage what you have now, and not live beyond your means. Is that what you're saying, or?
100%. The biggest wealth creator is the idea that you don't have to satisfy everyone else's wants and needs. Like, I've been driving the same car since 2019 and it only has 50,000 miles. And I did a road trip around the US. I don't really drive. So, do I need this super fancy car? No, I'd rather have a paid off car and be able to travel. Like, these are just trade offs that a lot of us don't see because we got a new car. And what's your default? What's the default for you if someone gets a new car? We say congratulations.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's 95% of the time it's not paid off. It's just another bill, or even like you buy a home. Buy a home. The bank owns the home, and you have the ability to purchase it, which is great, and there might go up. But like, we congratulate people on these things all the time. Starting a business never gets a congratulations. It always gets a that's not going to work. Are you positive? Like when you were starting these schools, like that seems a little silly. Like,
Oh, yeah. A lot of people try to talk me out of it.
I
You know,
bet.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's funny though, but when you're doing well, I was telling Glenn not too long ago, it's like being around the crap table. If you're winning in Vegas, all of a sudden you get all these friends. They tell you
Yes.
you're stupid for gambling, but as you're winning, they're like, "Hey, buddy," and it's like, I don't even know you. But as soon as you start losing, you turn around and there's nobody standing behind you. You
Yeah.
know,
But
and
the important
and
thing
they
there,
come back with, "I told you so."
yeah, but the important thing there is realizing who are those people who are actually behind you in the beginning. Like, who are your actual people? Because to, like you just brought up, like, we don't need a crowd. You don't need to satisfy the crowd of people who tell you you have to go do something. You have to do it on your own accord. And that's the biggest thing for most people is we all say we want these things. And then it's just like, are we actually taking the actions to get closer to those goals?
Well, what's funny is people who share their goals and their ambitions and so on and so forth share it with the wrong people. The people who don't have ambition, who don't have goals, or who are afraid, so they prevent you from moving on. Would you say that's when you're talking to people, is that a big thing?
100%. I mean, that's an energy vampire. And you start to realize that you can't share certain stuff with certain people because they're just not going to understand. Like, it was
Now,
pretty
who are
funny.
who are who are those people? Because a lot of people always think it's some friend outsider. Most of the time, it's people in your own family, in your own life that
Yeah, I
prevent you.
mean, so for me, like growing up, my parents always wanted me to get the job. And then once I got the job, they're like, "Why are you doing all this extra stuff? Like, just go have fun." And my parents are amazing, by the way. I just want to note that.
Yeah. Oh
But there
yeah.
was a period of time where they're like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing all this? Why don't you just go climb the bank's ladder and be happy? You'll have a great life, a great career." And I have a lot of friends that did that, but for me, I was like, it's not optimal for the life I want to have. I'm sitting around looking at people on the team and I'm like, I don't know that they're that happy. I don't know that this is the type of life I want or desire. And I sat there and I go, I have the ability here to have everything paid for by this one job. And I can do other stuff outside of that job because it wasn't a super high level position. And it allowed me to meet so many incredible people, learn so many incredible things that I started my own group. Like, you know what I mean? I did my own learning and you get around the people. And that's really where the podcast started. I started the podcast back in 2020, hashtag clocked in. And in my first 10 episodes, I interviewed the founder of Reebok. And I was like, how is this even? And I just sent him a DM on Instagram. I was like, hey, like, you want to come on my podcast? And it was this guy, he's like 80 something, Joseph Foster, and his wife, Julie. They're very, very nice. We actually met them in Orlando, actually, probably near you. We probably all should have got together.
Yeah,
But
got to
we
appreciate
had but I met with them, and the crazy thing was he sat there and he goes, yeah, I got to interview you to see if you're serious. And at this time I had nothing. There's literally like 5 episodes. I'm like, serious? Yeah. So we hop on the pre-call, and this was before like the recording. So I actually recorded the call because I'm like, if he tells me no, like I can't let my grandkids know I had a conversation with the founder of Reebok and didn't happen.
it.
We ended up doing the podcast, and then he's like, oh, Jordan, do you know anybody else? And but at that time I literally met two of the biggest business podcasts, so I did quick intros, and now we're all close because it, like, I provided value to them because I knew the opportunity he gave me. So it's this whole idea of you can create whatever life you want, but you have to put yourself out there. And the reason I started doing the podcast interviewing people was because I wanted to learn from them. I sat there and I had some people on where they charge $50,000 an hour. And I go,
Phew.
I got a free hour. This is fantastic.
So let me get this straight. When you did this, though, you didn't, like most people, like quit everything, their job, everything. Now they're really broke. So you still kept your job, but on that extra time that you had, you said, well, let me start small, which with Reeboks, that's not small. But you did put yourself out there, which people are afraid to do because they're afraid of the big what? No.
Judgment.
No.
Yeah. And the
But you,
no's. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing was for me though, my why was much bigger than that. At that point, I was 24, 25, and I sat there and I thought to myself, I go, what's the worst case scenario? No one sees it, one. And then two, I meet some incredible people. And then even bigger than that, I have something to show my grandkids. No, at this point, I'm not married. I'm not engaged. I'm married now, but we don't have any kids. I don't have any grandkids. And it's like, I was just thinking so far in the future. I was like, hey, YouTube's going to be around a long time, or these videos will be on my computer or somewhere. It would be awesome to show them all the people I spoke to. Because I sit there and ask my parents, hey, what are you doing at 25? And they're like, oh, I had this job, I had this thing. And I get the phones weren't as relevant back then, but I'm
right.
still like, I want to see it. Like, I want to experience it. So it's been really eye opening for me. And that's why I give you so much credit for doing this show, because you sit there and like, you didn't grow up with the phone. You mentioned a couple times, you're like, I have trouble with the tech, but I know the value I'm providing to people overdoes that. So that's why I'm really, really proud of you doing it.
Well, I love doing it because my mission was to always help others. And then when I see people like you who actually are doing it, I want people to understand it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter that you have, you got to be 45, 50, 60 and have all this experience behind you. You're young now. You can make a lot of discoveries if you have to at this point, but you can also put yourself out there and you're still going to live long enough to get over a couple of the no's because that one yes is going to make a big difference. So you put yourself out there. And how did you approach this gentleman? I mean, what was the hook? I mean, when he picked up the phone and said hello, what did you say? I'm
Well, it
doing this.
wasn't even like that. It wasn't even like that. It was interesting because I saw that he went on someone else's, Joseph Foster. I saw he went on someone else's podcast and they tagged his Instagram. So I just been doing this all on social media. So I went on his Instagram. I looked. He had under 1,000 followers. I'm like, this is the founder of Reebok. This is something's messed up. And then I realized I'm like, I caught this early. I found this person early where he might look for an opportunity. And that's where I sent the message. I was like, hey, I have a podcast. I'm a big fan. And at that point, I had Ron Jaworski on Jaws. I had him come on the podcast. So I just referenced the past people I had. And I was like, I'd love to have you on. And it's funny because his wife actually runs his social media and everything. So his wife responds. We schedule the call. We hop on. And I just focused on him. I just focused on the other person. And that's what the podcast has given me so much awareness on, because I can get excited and talk a lot. So I realized that if I focus on the other people, everyone wants to share their journey. Everyone wants to share their story. It's not about who listens, it's about the true connection that you're making with that person. And if one person learns something from it, fantastic. And the way a lot of this works now is you get the content, you clip it up, you put it on all these platforms. I'm letting you know more than one person's going to see it. Like it'll work itself out, but it doesn't have to be that value prop. It just has to be, hey, I'd love an hour of your time. And at that point, interesting enough, like you're saying, if I just asked him, hey, can I get on the phone with you for 30 minutes? He would say no. I've had so many guests that were like, I'd say no in a heartbeat. But you say, you want to come on my podcast? You want to meet my audience? They're like, yes. It is the biggest hack for intro calls. It is my
Yeah.
go-to. If there's someone I really want to connect with, I go intro call. I don't say intro call. I just say, hey, you want to come on my podcast? And people are like, oh, very
Yeah,
cool.
they're honored. Yeah, they're all of a sudden on your podcast. Yeah, I love it. It's funny that you do say that, because even when I was at the book awards, I was trying to meet some interesting authors and getting to know their books, and a lot of them are really interpersonal, but there's a lot that are intrapersonal. They're good at writing, but they're not good at explaining, what
Yeah.
they wrote about and so on and so forth. But soon as I would say, hey, I would like to know what you wrote about, and I would like to, visit your book because I'd love to have you on my podcast. All of a sudden, yeah, the light bulbs all just, your podcast? Oh yeah, I would love to be. And I'm getting emails now saying, hey, when we gonna get together for the podcast? But you did the podcast, you started that, but then you worked your way into coaching, or were you a
So
coach before the podcast?
yeah, so I was doing the coaching before the podcast. So what ended up happening was I was my first client. Like I was doing myself because I sat here and I've showed it to you before, but I can explain it to the audience. So what I realized was to live an exceptional life, there's 5 pillars. It's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. That's just
Say
for
that
me.
again. Say that again slowly, though, so they can get that.
Yeah, so there's 5 pillars, and this is for me at Edwards Consulting. It's mental health, physical health, community service philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. And the reason I did this was because what I realized is that if you look at Tony Robbins, you look at any of these top people, they or any incredible people on their own, they all have a framework for how they live and a way they make decisions. So what I realized was I needed a 5-year vision. I needed something super captivating. And then I needed a 1-year vision because in 5 years we could really blow it out of the water, but in 1 year we can actually work towards those goals. And then you have the 5 pillars, and I would see where people are at today and where I was at, and then what a 10 might look like in those different areas. And I was doing this with myself on a monthly basis. And then I would come up with 3 to 5 12-week goals and then goals of the week. So, like, for example, when this all started, I had 3 goals. It was one, because I vividly remember this. It was New Year's 2018 going into 2019, because I sat there and I learned that in New Year's, 95% of goals are done by February. And I was like, why is that? And it's because they have the big goal. Like the 3 for me were run a marathon, and I never ran more than like 5 miles at that point, pass all 4 sections of the CPA, and start a business. And those are all admirable 1-year goals, but you can't do them in a day. So you have to break down the action steps, and then you have to have accountability, whether it's yourself, whether it's a partner, whether it's an outside coach, doesn't matter. You need accountability. And so what I did was with the marathon, it's very simple. You can run 3 miles, you can run 5 miles, you can run 7, you follow a plan. The
Can you drive
CPA,
them? I don't like running, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. I like that one. It was funny when I started the marathon, I ran up to 7 miles for the first
Wow.
like 4 months. And I was just doing 7 miles a week just to maintain because I wasn't ready to commit because I didn't know where I was committing to. And then I chose a marathon that I was like, this would be awesome. And it was the Lake Tahoe Marathon. So I'm in Tampa, Florida. Lake Tahoe is at like 5,000 elevation. I'm like, I can do this. And I started training. But like one of my goals was pick a marathon, purchase the ticket, go purchase the flight, Then you start training. It's breaking these things down into little action steps that help you get there. And for me, that once I did all this, and I want to note, I failed the CPA, but I started the coaching business. And how I started that was just I went to a conference, got around different people, like you just said. You went to the amazing award ceremony, and you get around different people. And I started realizing everyone was selling, and I had nothing to sell at that point. So I go, I'm got the accounting degree, working at a bank, really into financial literacy. I should help people with their finances. So that's how I started it. Now, what ended up happening was it attracted a lot of people who had a lot of student loan debt, a lot of credit card debt, which you help them, but they weren't the most qualified client for that life development because they were so stressed on their finances. So you would meet with them, then I would. So it's been so many iterations where at first it was one-off meetings, then I started moving to a group dynamic, then I started doing programs, and it's just been an evolution. But you have to start.
Yeah. And, a lot of people are afraid to start because you hit something really hard here. Debt. A lot of people are in debt and they can't seem to move past that. I'm in debt, so I can't
Yeah,
move. They become, what is that? The fight or flight,
fight or
but
flight. Yeah,
yeah. And they just freeze and they get so depressed. They don't even go to work to try to pay off the debt,
because it
or
seems
they don't
unmanageable.
follow the dream. So take us through that. So if you were to coach somebody and they have these great, wonderful dreams, because you are a great coach and you have a lot of great clients that you've taken to great places. That's why I love talking to you, and we've had some conversations about that. But you take somebody, because a lot of people have great ideas, but once again, they're frozen. uh I would just love to say let it go, let it go, but anyway, the thing is, how do you motivate them, or what kind of guidance do you give them to say, yeah, you're here, you're not the only one, but this is what we're going to do, X, Y, and Z, because you can only
Yeah,
take small steps.
100%. So what I did was, and I actually, so the first thing I would do is I would set a strong 5 year vision for them. So what I mean by that, that's something that's to pull them. And then you have to feel the pain of where you're at currently. And your pain has to be to want to make a change. So what I would do with a lot of clients is like, they're like, oh, in 5 years, I want to buy a house. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I'm like, that's great. But right now, we need to take inventory of where you're at currently. Because I realize you can't just go to someone and be like, hey, you have a lot of student loan debt. Let's just try to restart this. It doesn't work like that. You got to take it down and then work towards it.
Okay,
And what I
so
would
one
do,
is
yeah,
so the number one thing is take self inventory.
well, the first thing is you want to have a captivating vision. Then you got to take the self inventory. Because the reason for the captivating vision is it will help you go forward. The self inventory is exactly what you're getting at. That's part two. When you start taking the self inventory, you want to sit there and look at how much money am I bringing in? How much am I spending? And I remember so many clients where I'd meet them and they're like, I'm underwater every month. And then you would let's look at the credit card. It's scary. Let's look at the bank. It's scary. And you start to realize that they're spending over $1,000 a month. And these are like brand new students, just in the workforce, on like random clothes that they don't even wear, or like a car that's way too expensive for their income. And you would have like we would set up actionable steps, and like some of them would take them, some of them wouldn't, and some of them were like, oh, I can just out earn this. And it's like, no, it's not. Like the goal one is to pay off all the debt. Goal two is you want to start investing for your future so that you can build this nest egg, so that when the time does come, you go, I don't need this job anymore. I
But do you
don't
think
need
people
these things.
stop listening when you say you got to get out of self debt because they're too focused on that debt, that they stop listening when you say, hey, what are we going to do? What plan are we going to make to get you out of debt? Because they can't see past how to do that. But yet they got a Starbucks in their hand. They're smoking their cigarettes. They're spending about $500 to $600 just on coffee and cigarettes a month. And I'm lowballing that.
Of
But
course.
but they don't want to make any sacrifices because they can't get past the. Do you see a lot of that? They just can't get past the I'm in debt.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing there is that you got to take them to the pain. Like, I had a coaching call this morning and I was talking to her about how you have to get them in the pain. So, it's, hey, we're going to sit here right now. How do you feel about yourself right now? And they'll give you some answers. Oh, feel good, feel whatever. In 5 years, how do you think you will feel spending $1,000 a month on cigarettes and coffee when you could have paid off your debt? Like, in 10 years, do you want your debt paid off or do you want the cigarettes and coffee today? And you start to realize where the real pain is. And some of that, like, I vividly remember my first client, it was a referral, it was one of my best friends, it was his friend. He goes, you got to talk to Jordan. This guy paid me $50. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do for him. So I said, hey, man, just send me over all of your information regarding debt, income, all that stuff. I'll do a little research. I'll figure out a plan. This guy had $100,000 in student loans. They
Wow.
had his minimum payment at like $100 a month. And the interest was over that. And I go, bro, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but with this situation, you need to pay more like $1,000 a month instead of this 100. And a lot of us think that the minimum payment is the minimum thing, but that's just so they keep you in the cycle forever. It's BS. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's how the Visa, MasterCard, all of these are some of the banks even. Like, that is why they're so wealthy, is because they have these people in this debt spiral. And you have to get out of that by just raising your awareness and understanding, hey, I have to figure this out. And we did the math. If he paid $1,000 a month with his current interest rates, he would have finished in 10 years. So we're coming up on the 10 years in a few years now. And it's like, your life could be completely different. And then at that point, then you just start investing and now it's compounding. So instead of, people don't realize compound interest negatively, like on the debt side, scary. On the income, on the investing side, fun. Like, it's
Yeah.
very freeing because it's the
Yeah,
same thing.
but everybody's caught up in this Bitcoin, but they don't have enough money for the Bitcoin. But there's ways to get in without a lot of money. But they're always looking for the quick fix. Like you said, $2,000 credit card. I'm making the minimum payment. What's that 2,000? When is that going to be paid off if I just make the minimum payment? And how much does it really cost me at the end?
For sure. So the big website that I go to is called, this is just for everyone listening. There's this website, if you just type in compound interest on Google, and you can do compound interest calculator. And that will show you investment interest, but you can look this all up online. Or if you guys want to schedule a call, I can definitely help. And pretty much what would happen is you're going to pay for, like, the minimum payment on 2 grand is probably like 40 or $50. And they're charging like 30%, which is like $600 a year. So it's just going to keep going up and up and up. Like, they're making sure that your minimum payment does not cover. And that's how you just have credit card debt for years and years, and it affects your credit. And it's all these things. But the big difference, Julia, I think the big difference here is short-term versus long-term thinking. A lot of these financial woes are very short-term focused. If we switch to a long-term vision of, oh my God, if I change the way I view myself, if I'm not someone who carries that, even because you have to change this image of yourself before you even start being that person. Like, how many people have told you, I want to be a millionaire, and they only have $100 in their pocket? But then 10 years later, they're a millionaire, or 20 years later. It's because you have to decide who you are as a person. And the really scary thing, I think, for a lot of people, credit card, you kind of see it happen. These student loans are crazy because a lot of
Yeah.
these kids didn't take them their parents just said, hey, you can afford this school. You're going to have some debt. Some debt to some people is 3 grand. Some debt is 120 grand. It's a really stressful thing for a lot of people. I remember coming out of college and everyone sitting there going, how much do you have? How much do you have? And it was this unforeseen thing. Like, no one knew. And that's what was so scary. So it's the more intentional you can get, the better understanding you can have will help you so much more.
Yeah.
I think,
There's a lot of parents that I meet. that, because I own beauty schools,
Of
owners
course,
of beauty
yeah.
schools, and they come in and they say, "But I want my kid to go to college," and I'm like, "Okay, here they can come to school for 8 months, right? They get a great foundation, and when they get out of school, and it's only going to cost them what 25 grand, right? They can pay that off with student loans in no time." Now that could be their platform, meaning they can still work in 8 months. They can get out, get a job, start making money, and if they want to go to college, which they should probably take a business class in order to understand how to manage their money. But at least they're still generating money, or they still have something to fall back on. Where my brother, who went to medical school, he's 70 something and just got done paying his student loan.
But I thought doctors make a whole bunch of money.
Which goes in, well, he left the medical field because of the insurance, all that good stuff, and he ended up
No,
coming in
of course,
business with me.
I'm joking.
But
I'm
yeah, oh,
joking,
I
but
know. But yeah,
I'm
but
just saying they'll take on 300-400 grand and they're like, but it'll make
yeah,
so much more. But you've never managed money in your entire life. So how do you think you're going to understand the jump from 60K as a as a like intern to making 220 as a surgeon, and you sit there and go, wait, instead of $1,000 apartment, I'll just get a 5,000. You don't
right.
know, like you just haven't had that experience of money
Yeah.
management, which is so important.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you choose to do. Some people are made for college, some are made for trade schools, but where there's a will, there's a way, is what you're saying. So if you create a vision, is what you're saying, a good 5 year plan, and
Yeah.
then you do self inventory, which is self awareness as well. Is I got to believe in me. I got to know that I can achieve anything I want to, and once I get that belief, which is very tough, it's a lot of work for self awareness. What then? Okay, now I believe in me, Jordan. Now what?
Yeah, so then the next big thing is where you're at. You know your future, you know where you're at. Now you just have to make the steps to get there, and that's why, like you just said, like beauty school. I don't even like it makes more sense to invest in these things that are at least profitable day one. Like if you go to beauty school, you can join a salon, you can go do stuff like you'll make money. So it's this idea of like going to school and spending all of this money and then being like I have 120K in debt and I make 50 grand. That's challenging. Like that is a very intimidating place to be, so you have to sit there and realize what are your action steps. So we know where we're at, we know where we want to be. So like for me, it was setting these goals. So it was the marathon, the CPA, and the business. And each week I would check in with myself. So you need someone to set the action steps of what those are, whether that's a coach, partner, yourself. So let's say the goal is to pay off the credit card. Let's just use that as an example. So you have 2 grand and the minimum payment's $40. You have to take inventory and look at yourself and see, is there anywhere I can eliminate expense? And usually I don't know how deep you want to go, but there's fixed expense and then variable expense. So fixed is like house, car, any recurring payment. Variable is just, hey, we went out to dinner tonight. Sometimes it's $10, sometimes it's $200. So that variable expense is what you're going to want to cut down on initially to start paying towards this debt. And maybe you set the debt plan as I'm going to pay 250 a month. Great. You start paying 250 a month, that thing will be paid off in probably a year and you won't have to pay as much interest. But you have to set these goals for yourself and then you have to be accountable. If we're not accountable, then what are we talking about? Like a
Yeah,
majority of the coach.
oh no, go ahead. Because a lot of people, you don't have to give up everything, but you're telling me you got no money. Okay, I saw your Starbucks, I saw your coffee, but now you're ordering lunch every day. So I don't have to cut all three out, but by cutting one out, I can cut out the debt and and have more freedom and more peace of mind if I just made myself a sandwich, rather than buying. Because I don't know where you go to dinner for $10, but you can't even go to McDonald's and get a meal for $10 anymore.
I know. And in these, like even the lunch, every lunch is $20. So like me and my wife works a corporate job, And she was like, I go every single day because we meal prep. Like when we're back in Tampa, we'll meal prep. And then the funny thing is, she's like, I see all these people going and they're in some debts and stuff, and they'll just go $20, $20, $20. You do the math, 5 days a week, $20. That's $100. That's $400 a month. That's $400 a month you could be paying towards your debts. So there's just a lot of leakage and a lot of stuff of, oh, it makes me feel better. No, being debt free will make you feel better.
Yeah,
Removing that
absolutely.
debt will definitely make you feel better, because when you get to that position, and this is what I had to do at the bank, where I had to eliminate a lot of my debts, and then you start to sit there and you're like, oh, I don't need this job. So if something upsets me, I'm just going to say no and leave. Not in a disrespectful or a bad way, but in a way of very like a freeing way of, I don't actually need this money. Like I'm not getting what I want out of this experience. And in life, like people are good fits or it's not a good fit. And you don't have to pretend you're a good fit for something if you have the proper financial backing and the
You
financial
know,
setup.
people always do focus on the money, and don't get me wrong, money is nice. It helps pays the bills. It helps us do the things that we've always wanted to do. So people get caught up in, I want to be rich. Is that the right mentality? I say no, but I want to hear from you. Or what, like, where do we need to back up and say, stop thinking of the money and start freeing yourself from the money? Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Of course, yeah. So rich is an interesting term. It's so vague and out there, and no one even knows what it means because we all have different definitions for it.
Yeah.
But what I started viewing rich or wealthy as is how many months could you survive without making another dollar? So when you start looking at it that way, you go, wow. So there's only two variables. It's the money you make slash keep, and then it's the expenses you have each month. So you start to realize there that, hey, if I live on 5 grand a month and I have $100,000, that's 20 months that I don't need to make any money and I'm not stressed. Or but then if you take that same equation and you spend $20,000 a month and you only have 100 grand, that's 5 months. So you have to start realizing what you can control, which I call this the back end. The back end is like how much you're spending on things, and then the front end is your offense. So that's how much are you making? How much are you bringing in through your job, maybe a side hustle, maybe helping out your family, whatever it is. You need to make sure that that offense exceeds that defense. And then the real wealth is when your investments, the amount you keep, produce enough to keep your lifestyle afloat without having to do anything. So the two big controllables are how much do you spend every single month, and then how much do you actually have saved up. That's why I find the question really funny of people go, how much do you make in a year? And it's like, that's such a bad question. The better question, if you really want to know someone, should be what's your net worth? Because now I'm knowing how much you're keeping, and then I know how long you can live without that money. But when
So the
we're
better
like,
question
oh,
is, how much are you saving a year?
correct. Even better question. Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a year. It's just whatever it is. But you want to
How
get to
much you
that like
save in a week? Yeah.
you
Whether
want to
it be
get
a
to that
buck or two.
you want to get to that like 20% savings rate if you can, because what that will free you exponentially, and then you can live wherever you want. You can do whatever you want. Like the reason I'm traveling right now, and we're traveling for 7 weeks, we did this last year, is because it was a decision we made, one, and we could do it financially because we saved. And we don't have the newest cars. So every month that I'm gone, I'm not paying this car payment. It's already paid off. And it's these very freeing things that you do for yourself where you're like, oh, that's not bad. That's okay. Like I can do that. And you start to realize that anything's possible, but we put a lot of these, I would call them constraints on ourselves, mental constraints mostly, because it is possible. You can create the life that you want. It is possible. You do it, I
But
do it. And
yeah, but it's funny too, because some people I know have met their goals where they're making a great income, but the more money they make, the more they spend, and they forget the one thing. Did I put a little away for tomorrow? Did I put a little bit away to have a nice vacation? Did I tithe properly? You know, and do I have enough? I need to figure out what my bills are, and then what's left over, I need to divide that and know that that's going to be what I live my life off of today and for the future. But what they end up doing is they get a raise. So what do you think everything else is? The apartment gets raised, the car quality gets raised, the meals get raised, and they end up spending. They got a raise, but they spend more than their raise. Am I right? Or
Yes, absolutely. The reason I'm smiling because it's so true, and they forget the biggest bill of all of it, which is paying themselves. That is
yes,
why you have to start instituting a bill that pay yourself first. And I read that in The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's a very, very good book where it talks about you want to live on 70% of the money you make. You want to keep 10% for savings. You want to invest 10% in other things, which might be the market, someone you enjoy, mentors, whatever it is. And then it says give 10% away to realize how abundant you really are. And you start to realize very quickly that if you're not focusing on paying yourself, then like you said, like I have a financial advisor friend and he goes, dude, these doctors, lawyers making a half million, $1 million a year have nothing. Like literally not like they lose their job, they lose their house, they lose everything. And it's like I try to tell them, but they're like, I can't give up the Porsche to drive a Toyota. What do you mean?
yeah, we need a car, but we want a Porsche. I love the commercial where the guy's like, I got this big yacht, I got this helicopter, I got this big mansion. How do I do it? I'm in debt. And that's what you want to stay away from, especially today. And you can't wish it. A lot of people sit back and you remember what was it called, The Gift, or what was that book that if you just think it, it'll happen?
I
The
think
Secret. The
yes,
Secret. Yeah,
yes,
you can think it, but you have to act upon it, right?
yes.
So you got to have that vision. You got to have that self inventory. You got to make the first steps. See as far as you can see, so you can see further, and then you got to. And in that, you're saying, let's look at what we make monthly and what we can squeeze out, save a little bit. And I'm just trying to recap here. Is look at here's my bills. So okay, now I got X amount left over, and I'm going to split that in 10, 10, and 10 for 1K, money, whatever, tithing, and for the rainy day, or for my fun, for my vacation, for my whatever. But that doesn't mean I go back and dip into my 401 because I need the new speakers for my house. Because you just keep
Yeah,
stealing from yourself.
yes, exactly. And the really interesting thing you brought up there is the rainy day slash fun. Like this vacation trip, it's not, I don't even call it a vacation because I'm literally working the whole time. But we invest money every single month. We pay ourselves every single month where it automatically draws in and it goes into an account and that account builds and builds and builds. So if we don't travel, that account's just going to keep growing.
Mm.
And then you start to realize, and the cool thing is, and that's like one of my biggest, like easiest things for people is once you set this up automatically using like a Fidelity and it just pulls from your bank account, then you sit there and you're like, oh my God, I'm in a real cash squeeze and I need that 10 grand. Just because you labeled the vacation fund or labeled it the real estate fund or the whatever, you can use that money again. Like it's not like you can't use it. It's money you still have. Yes, ideally you want to use it on the thing, but dire situation, like you said, you still have it. But it is very freeing when you're saving money every single month for your travel because then when you go on a trip, you just pull from the account and you're like, oh, I didn't overspend this month because I just used the money from a different place.
You know how many people right now are sitting back, Jordan, and going, "You guys don't understand because you're rich." No, we're not. We're not rich, but we're rich in thought and being mindful. I had to make a lot of stupid mistakes. And listen, it doesn't matter if you're making 30,000 a year or 300 a year or 3 million. You still have to know how to budget that money because
It's
I
honestly
guarantee you, if you're making 30 or $3 million, 30,000 or 3 million, if you're not budgeting it right, you're still making zero.
It's a bigger deal at 30,000, honestly. Like if you can't save at 30, you're not going to be able to save at the next increment and the next increment and the next thing. Like you have to start this habit when you're young and or today. Like watch this video and start it today where it's like I'm going to put $5 a day away. That works. Oh no, it's small. No, it's not. It's huge. It's massive because you're starting to build a habit. It's like every time you go to the gym, you should pay yourself an I mean, people do pay themselves because they can actually live longer, but you should pay yourself more every single time because as you start saving more and more and more, and we don't, if you're in the theory that you need a windfall of like the lottery, that's not going to help you because you don't have the habits. Only the habits will help you get to the windfall, and then you'll be able to know how to manage it and handle it.
Yeah. I always tell people because I have a strong faith. I first have a relationship with God, because to me, he gives me the strength I need. And he's already planned my future out. But he also gives me the wisdom and the words that I read every morning that inspire me to follow what needs to be done. And a lot of it, and one of them that really stuck with me is don't make money your God, because you can only serve one master. And if you chase money, it's not going to come after you. But what can you do to serve others? And then in response, they will help you, you know, uh, get what you need. So basically, one of those I always felt, and I don't know how you feel about that, is is have a strong faith, whatever it may be in. Okay, but for me, it's God and Jesus Christ. But all of a sudden, uh, that'll give you the confidence and the strength, and rather than living with fear, and you'll have a clearer vision. You'll have a better self inventory of yourself, and you have a faith that you believe in yourself to get where you're going and can get where you're going. And not only that, he brings people like you, Jordan Edwards, in our lives who are coaches because we need an accountability buddy. And that's where you come in because we could probably talk here all day long about what it's going to take. But, let's get something through their heads right now is if you are still struggling, call somebody, a coach or a friend or a Jordan Edwards, who is an accountability friend who is not looking to feed off you, but to feed you. So that,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I'd add to that, it's not even struggling. It's just sitting there going, hey, am I due for more? Can I do this? Is this possible? Because it's funny when people think about coaching a lot of time, they're always like, oh, this person's like a real problem child. And I'm like, no, 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 you want the person who's good. Like, does Tom Brady need a coach? Yes. Does Tony Robbins have a coach? Yes. So it's these people that are exceptional that just want to level up. And it's getting another set of eyes on the vision you have for your life. It's not this, hey, everyone's going to be babied, but it's, hey, have you thought about it this way? Have you given this perspective a look? Because as we get more and more perspectives, like I have a mentor of mine, he's 80 years old, and he's like, the biggest goal in life is to learn thyself. And to learn thyself, you have to have many perspectives. And that's why I love traveling, because you meet so many different people, you see so many different ways to live, and you start to realize that anything's possible. So my point being here is that if you can get around people like myself or yourself, or just people around you that go, wow, that person's got it kind of figured out. That's kind of cool. I'd love to learn from them. There's many different ways of doing coaching. It doesn't always have to be this, you must do this. No, that's why I give out the podcast for free. That's why, like, I literally have so much content out there. I've done over 250 episodes because you want people to get the knowledge. So anything it is really going to help you get there. Because I truly do believe that we are meant for so much more. And having someone hold us accountable, whether that's family, friends, coach, usually an outside person, it helps because they don't have any bias towards you and you don't have any of these like things. So it does help. So it's just really, really important to get a real strong vision, get the action steps, and then work towards them and check in with yourself or have someone else check in with you.
Yeah, and when you say work at them, we're not saying that you have to go out and really sweat the sweat, like what they used to call work in the old days. There are so many things that you can do that can be enjoyable while you're working and still having a great living. But I want to go backwards a little bit more. The reason I always focused on talking about money is because that's where people get stuck.
Yes.
They're just stuck on money rather than, like you said, the vision, it's self-awareness, the managing their process. So, stop focusing on the money and start focusing on the vision, right? So if I needed a coach like you, how do I contact you?
Yeah, so you guys can actually send me an email. It's at jordan@edwards.consulting, and you can schedule a time with me. Or I'll drop this in the show notes. It's just a 30-minute calendar meeting, and we can just add it to the show notes. But it's on my Calendly, and you guys can book a call with me. And my website's edwards.consulting. That's it. There's no .com. It's just edwards.consulting.
Okay. So I know we got 5 minutes or 4 minutes left. I want to, respect your time, and we could probably talk, like I said, for hours. But give us 5 quick things we need to start now, if that even includes getting a coach, and give me a little example of each one of them. And then we'll finish off with the best advice you can give all.
Okay, so
Or
five.
just give me four, even four. It doesn't matter.
No, it's okay. I think tips, if we want to, because what I'm thinking through the money angle, the first one you want to do is I have this thing called the effort number, which is basically a number under any amount, and it gets bigger as you age or have more resources. But your effort number is basically this idea of I don't care. If you rip me off, it does not matter because that will help you have a lot of your peace. Like in college, mine was $2. I think mine now is like $25, like maybe $50. Because you start to realize you're like, it's not worth the stress. The stress. So that's tip one. Tip two is focus on your health. Like you only have one body. So you were saying how to optimize. I got a walking treadmill. It has helped me drastically because you can do so many things while working. Tip three, get intentional. Figure out what it is you want to do and then start taking the steps to get there. And then tip four is surround yourself with better people. Not that saying people aren't good or bad, but when you tell your dreams to small-minded people, you're going to get results you don't want. You got to tell them to people that are bigger than you and they go, "That's it?" That's what you want to hear when you tell someone your dream. And then number five is just like you said, you gotta have faith. Gotta have faith that it can happen. And life is short and life is long. So the more you're in your zone of genius, the more you'll start to see things aligning for your favor.
I like what you said when you're in the zone of genius, because uh, all the people have to understand this. They are all geniuses if they allow themselves to be. It's not because somebody went to college, they're smarter, or because somebody made a little bit more money, they're smarter. No, you know, there there is no person dedicated to be better than another. It's just, what do you choose to be, and want to be, and then how can you help others along the way? So what advice can you leave that will help people? Any advice that is profound or whatever that will take us to where we need to be, or who we need to be.
I would say figure out your goal and then do an unreasonable amount of work that it will get you to that goal.
Okay,
Because
that's beautiful.
the reason I say that is because and when I say unreasonable, some people think, oh, you have a podcast, message all these people. Like I probably message 50 people a day. Oh, that's not enough, or that's too little. Some people are like, I messaged 3 people. Three is not unreasonable. Get unreasonable, folks, because that's what's going to change it for you. That unreasonableness of you go tell your mom, go tell your dad, go tell your family, go tell your partner, and they're like, damn, I'd expect results by then. That's where you're starting to get unreasonable. That's just the tip of unreasonable. So you got to give it a lot more than you think it is. And then you'll be able to conquer your goals.
Yeah. And if you haven't checked out Callan, what's that hashtag?
It's Cal. Oh, the podcast is
Callan.
hashtag clocked in with Jordan Edwards.
Then I don't know why
You're
calendar,
good.
but it's
No,
hashtag
the
clocked in.
calendar is the calendar. You're good.
Yeah, and pick up some of these great interviews that Jordan is giving and the great advice that he gave you. He has a ton more, and he has a great way to lead you to where you need to be. And listen, people are like, well, I might not have the money for that. You have you cannot afford not to invest in yourself.
And
That's the
also,
first step. What's that?
yeah, yeah, of course. And I was going to say the first call is completely free. Like it's complimentary for your audience because I appreciate you so much and I want to give value back to them.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and believe it or not, there are so many mentors, and you probably heard it too, in that great advice that you gave, that said they didn't have the money to invest in a certain training or a certain program that somebody was doing. But they said to themselves, I must find a way to invest in myself because it'll give me tenfold return if I invest in myself. And too many people don't invest in themselves, whether it be the gym or knowledge. And knowledge and wisdom is the best investment you can give yourself throughout your journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
So,
This has been
hey,
incredible.
listen, I'm going to have you stick around a little bit because obviously we got to download everything. But you know what? I really thank you for your time, your wisdom. And I had so many questions for you. But I think this is a great kickstart for some people out there looking uh, to, to take that first step. And I think we've given them that first step. And if they want to definitely have an accountability buddy, get a coach. Everybody needs a coach. I don't care who you are, how great you are. We still need the coach who is unbiased, who's going to cheer for you and help you. And sometimes that coach is not that person you think it is. Which is, if you say, "Well, my friend will help me," or my what are they helping you with? They're struggling themselves, So get somebody out there that can help you get to where you want to go. And most of all, guys, have great faith. And Jordan, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And everyone, thank you for your time. And may God bless you. And may you have a wonderful day until we meet again. See you soon.
Thank you.
Yay! Yay!